Recently, I made a video on Redux Saga, and this one is going to be about Redux Thunk. So let's get started. First of all, I have a starter project here. You can clone. I will link the repository in the description. You can clone the project using this link, using the command git clone and the link. Once you clone it, it would be on a master branch, so you can check out to the starter project branch. Once you're on the starter project, you will be able to see all the starter project code we have here. I'm going to quickly start the server using yarn, but you can also use npm. So once you run the server, the project will look something like this. These are some static assets I'm showing here. If you look into app.tsx, you can see that it is just a div with some dummy content here. I'm going to use a public API called JSON placeholder API. And if you look at the post endpoint, I click on this, it returns an array of posts which has an ID, title, and a body. We don't need the user ID for this project. So what I'm going to do is, using Redux Thunk, I'm going to fetch all these posts and render it on the screen. If you look at the startup project, we have a lot of dependency already installed, except Redux Thunk, that we are going to do from scratch. And if you look at the actions, they only export an empty object for now, so that we don't get any React error. We're going to write some code in this. If you don't understand this folder structure and how this Redux application is set up, you can check out my react-redux TypeScript tutorial in the I button here above. With that said, let's get started. Firstly, I'm going to show you the reducer. So if you look at this post reducer, it looks for a get post action and it returns an array with all the posts. Now, if you look into this types store type, we can see that it has one key called post, and which is an array of post. Now, post is an interface which is an ID, title, and body. As we saw, the JSON placeholder API returns all these things. Firstly, I'm going to show you how an action creator can be created. So action creators are nothing but a normal function. So the syntax goes like this. I can just define an action creator called get post, which will call the API and get all the post. And I'm going to define it as an arrow function. And let's export it from this file. All right. So we can take any arguments here, but in this case, we are just going to get some posts, so we don't need any argument. All right, I just zoomed in the code a bit. So how this Redux Thunk middleware actually works is that in our action creator, we can either return a normal action, which is an object, or I can return a function itself. And inside that function, I can make asynchronous calls. We can't make asynchronous call in our normal action creator. We have to use some middleware like Redux Thunk or Redux Saga. By the way, if you want to learn Redux Saga, I have a video made just about it. I'll link it in the I button and in the description. So we can return a function here, and that function would be executed by Redux Thunk. We also get dispatch and get state functions inside that thunk that we are going to define. When I define my get post action creator, I can return a new function inside it like this. And inside this function, I'm always going to get a dispatch and get state. But now TypeScript is giving me some errors. We have to define this action creator somewhere. We want to define it in our types folder in action creator types. Right now it exports an empty object, but we're going to define our action creator there. To simplify this, instead of using return statement, we can remove our brackets. Because we are using arrow function, if we don't have a return statement and the curly brackets, whatever comes after this arrow is returned. So in this case, this arrow function would return this function. Now let's define our action creator. In our action creator types folder, I'm going to define a type which is called get posts action creator. And I'm going to export this type first from this file. This is going to be a function which returns a thunk action. Now, as you can see, we don't have that defined. We have to install Redux Thunk first. So let's go to our terminal, and I'm going to use yarn add. You can also use npm install Redux Thunk like that. Now it is installed, and then I can import an inbuilt type called thunk action. Like that. And our action creator actually returns a thunk action. A thunk action is nothing but, as I told, it can be an object, our actual action, or it can be a function. So Redux Thunk gives us this type so that we can define our action creators. It is going to be a thunk action, but we are going to use generic to specify this in more detail. So if we hover over this, you can see that thunk action has 4 generics we can pass. But the first one is R. R is what it is going to return. In this case, it is not going to return anything. The second one is the state. Now we have defined a state in our types folder. It is called store type. From types/store type. Okay. So this is the benefit of defining these types in a separate folder, that we can use this anywhere we want. We have passed the second argument. The third argument is any extra arguments you want to pass to our Redux Thunk function. So in this case, I don't want to pass anything, so I'm going to pass an empty object. And the fourth is all the actions that are going to be created from my action creator. So I've actually made an action called getPost, and the payload is going to be an array of posts. So I can import that as well. Let's import from types, action types, get post action, and I can pass this as the fourth argument like this. So we have our action creator type defined here. Let me go through this again. We have a function which returns a thunk action, and thunk action takes in store type and actions it is going to return. So now I can use this action creator type in R by defining our action creator itself. So here in our actions folder, I can import action creator types. I can import our type that we define, get post action creator, and I can set the type of this variable as get post action creator like that. So now you can see this error has gone because Typescript knows that this is a function which returns a thunk action, which is a function or an object, and which has dispatch and get state as arguments. All right, now we have dispatch function, so we can dispatch actions from this action creator and also make a synchronous request to any API. So if you look at package.json, I have a proxy added here, which is our JSON placeholder API. And what this proxy does is that when a React server, the one we run here, gets a request which does not exist, for example, if we try to fetch something like /post, there is no route defined for it, so it would redirect it to this proxy API. So this makes working with APIs very simple. Now I have this Axios API class defined here. I'm not going to go in much depth about that API stuff. If you want me to make a video, I'll make one for it. Now let's get along with our thunk. So here I'm going to import our API, import post API from API/post API. And now here I have to define this as an async function. Now I can make the API request. I'm going to define a variable called response, and we can use await here, post API dot get. These are normal Axios methods we can use to make API request, and I'm going to make request to nothing essential because I have set the base URL in this setup configuration here itself. So we are going to always make a request to /post, so I don't have to specify any other thing here. And but what if this results in an error? So I have to use a try catch block like this. And if we get an error, we're just going to console log it like this. Now, once I get a response, I'm going to check if the response dot status is 200. So this is a switch statement which checks the variable response dot status, and if it is 200, we are going to execute this code. Here I'm going to dispatch action, and I can use the dispatch call itself, and I'm going to dispatch. As you can see, it is starting to giving me this error because I have not defined type. This is the type safety it is adding because I have defined what type of action this action creator should return. So this is the type safety I'm getting here. So if I press Ctrl space here, you can see that I'm getting autocomplete of get post because I've told Typescript that this action creator should return this action specifically. And if you look at the action definition, it says the type should be of type get posts. That's how I get the type safety. And it should have payload property, which should be response dot data. We know that the data given by the API is going to be an array of posts. So I'm going to just push it in here. And that's all. So when we call this action creator, we are going to make a synchronous request to this API. And then depending on response code, we're going to dispatch an action. We can remove this get state as we don't need it. Now, if we look at our index.tsx, I have not actually attached the middleware right now. As you can see, the apply middleware doesn't have anything, but I have to apply it to our Redux. So let's import Thunk from Redux Thunk. And then we can apply it here, this. And now our middleware will work. Now, in case of calling this action creator, we have to go into our app.tsx, a component itself, and we're going to import our basic connect function. So let's import. If you don't know what connect function is and how react-redux actually works, I have a full series on it. You can check it out. So connect like this, and then I'm going to have map state to props. Just going to write this out quickly. And we have to pass in the map state to props as the first argument. And then in the second argument, it can be either a function, which can be map dispatched to props, or it can be an object itself for convenience. So I'm going to import our action creator now. Let's import get from actions, and it is going to be called get post. Let's pass it into this object like this. Now we are going to get our action creator in our props, and we're going to get a map state to props. We're going to get a post prop as well, which is going to have an array of all the posts. So now our component actually doesn't know that it is going to get these props. So we have to define what props we are going to get in this app. So I'm going to make another file called app prop type.tsx, and in here I'm going to make an interface called app prop type, which is, I'm going to export this first quickly. Rather, I'm going to make a default exported app prop type like that. We know that our prop is going to be a post, and it is going to be of type post array. What this post is, we can import this from our store type /store type. In our store type file, we have a type called post like that. So we know that one of our prop is going to be an array of post, and another is going to be get post, and this is the action creator. Now the problem here is that we can't directly define this as, we can't directly define it from our action creator types that we defined here. Let me show it to you. So in our action creator type, we have defined the actual type of the action creator. We can't do that here. If we do that here, we are going to get an error from the connect function. So let me show you that error. Most of you will get this error if you're doing it by this method. So let me show it to you. So I'm going to import app prop type from /app prop type like that, and I'm going to make this as an arrow function like this. I'm going to define this function as a react.functional component. That's how you define a functional component in TypeScript. And I have to pass a generic. And whatever generic I pass here is whatever object type I pass here or interface I pass here is going to be the props for this component. So we have this already defined here. So let's pass it in app prop type. Now if I try to destructure my props like this and press Ctrl space, you can see I get post and get post. We're getting this because we have defined our app prop type. So let's do that like that. But if you see down below, we are getting an error here. This is the error generated by connect function. What is happening here is that connect is thinking that get post action creator returns a void, but we know that it returns a thunk action. But after our action creator is passed into the connect function, it doesn't remember that. It just thinks that it returns void. So it wants our get post to return void, but in our app prop type, we have defined it in such a way that it returns a thunk action. So the way to get out of this is to import a type provided by react-redux. It's react-redux itself. It is called infer thunk action creator type. And what you do here is we can delete this and set the type as infer thunk action creator, but we have to pass a generic, and inside that generic we have to pass our actual function type. It is going to be get post action creator like that. Now if you look at our app component, it doesn't give us any error, and now we can use these functions easily inside our component. So in this case, I'm just going to loop through our post. So post.map, and we're going to get a post, and inside this I'm going to return a div. In the map statement, I'm going to return a div like this. The title is going to be post dot title. Let me just close this. Yeah, post dot title, and this is going to be, the body is going to be post dot body like that. And according to React, we have to also pass in a key. so that React can render this properly. So we know that we have ID for each post, so we can do post.id like that. And I'm going to remove this dummy text. But right now it is not going to render anything because we have not made the API request. We have not called this action creator yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an API request when this app renders for the first time. So to do that, I'm going to import use effect hook. What this will enable us to do is call this action creator once when the app gets rendered for the first time. Let's say use effect like this, and if we pass an empty array, this is a quick way of saying that we want to only run this once. I'm going to call get post, and as you can see we don't have to pass any argument here, but I just want to show you the type safety here. In our action creator type, while defining this action creator, if I want an ID of type string, if I want any argument, I can define it like that, and inside our app we will get that error. It wants us to pass an argument, so we are getting this type safety here. I don't need this, so I'll remove it. I just wanted to show you the type safety here, and this wants me to put get post here because it is a dependency of that effect, use effect. That's all. Now our get post will be called once when the app renders for the first time, and then we're going to render the post. Now let's look at our application. As you can see, all the posts, there are 100 posts, all the posts are getting rendered. Let me refresh and show you. If you look at Redux DevTools, you can see a get post action is dispatched. And if I look at the network tab, refresh again, you can see a post request, a get request is made here. Alright guys, this was all for the video. Hope you liked the video, and comment down below what you want me to make next, and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.